faithfully conveying value and interpreting great books from around the world. Hello, this is Sally's Book Talk. This year is the year of the tiger. Before today's talk, let's listen to a crosstalk routine. Describing your brother's looks. My brother? Yeah, he's tiger-headed and tiger-brained. That's about right. Describing your spouse's gaze. Everyone, your spouse is like a tiger staring intently. A tigress, right? You're following behind your spouse like a fox borrowing the tiger's fierceness. But when your spouse isn't home, you're like in the mountains without a tiger. The monkey reigns as king.
Dad, as soon as your spouse is home, you just can't speak.
How so?
At home? That's my status. What status? What status? Let me make you understand. Oh. At home, I'm also like a tiger's butt, can't be touched. That's quite interesting.
Why do Chinese people have a special fondness for tigers? How has its image evolved from ancient times to the present? What is the relationship between tigers and traditional folklore? To address these questions, renowned folklorist Professor Wang Fenling from the Chinese Department of Northeast Normal University has conducted decades of in-depth research, finally writing Chinese Tiger Culture. The book has 14 chapters, about 280,000 words, gathering extensive data. It elaborates on the development and essence of Chinese tiger culture from angles like culture, archaeology, religion, folklore, dissemination, and protection, in a detailed and engaging way. Next, I'll interpret this book for you by focusing on 3 questions. The first question: why do Chinese people revere tigers? The second question: what are the connotations of tiger culture? The third question: how is tiger culture disseminated and passed down? Now, let's start with the first question. Why do Chinese people revere tigers? Of course, this is directly related to China being the origin of tigers. So, in 1920, paleontologists discovered tiger skull and lower jaw fossils in Mianqi, Henan. After identification, they date back about 2 million years. This shows that tigers were active in this region as early as ancient times. This tiger was named the ancient Chinese tiger. Later, scholars, after further research, believe the 5 existing tiger subspecies, Siberian tiger, South China tiger, Indian tiger, South Asian tiger, and Sumatran tiger, all descended from the ancient Chinese tiger. Therefore, it's generally accepted that China is the origin of tigers, with an extremely wide distribution covering the Central Plains, Northeast, Southwest, and South China. This is because ancient East Asia had lush vegetation and rich biodiversity, making it an ideal tiger habitat. This determined that ancient humans living here had to coexist with tigers. For example, at the Peking Man site in Zhukudian, dating back about 18,000 years ago, archaeologists found tiger bone fossils. Long-term coexistence gave the ancient Chinese people a special affection for tigers. Now, tigers are the largest males in the cat family, with body lengths up to 3.7 meters and weights of 420 kilograms. Their roars shake the heavens and earth, their hunting is fierce and swift, and their majestic appearance made them easily worshipped as totems by ancient people. In June 1975, archaeologists excavated a primitive tomb at Shishui Slope in Poyang, Henan. The tomb owner was an elderly man with a dragon pattern carefully arranged with clamshells on the right and a tiger pattern on the left. This tiger is about 1.39 meters long, with eyes wide open and a gaping mouth, depicted in a running posture. According to dating, this tomb dates back about 6,500 years, coinciding with the legendary era of Fuqi. The author of the book speculates that, given the conditions of the time, the tomb's configuration was top-notch. Therefore, the tomb owner was not an ordinary person. He might be one of the ancestors of the Chinese people. He could be Fuxi, or at least a highly authoritative tribal leader. Regardless of who he was, The tiger pattern alone shows that ancient Chinese people regarded tigers as divine beasts early on. Some primitive tribes also worshipped tigers as totems, their ancestral gods and protectors. This is vividly reflected in another ancient legend, the Battle of Banquan.
In ancient times, the tribal alliances of Yandi and Huandi fought at a place called Ban Quan. Huandi drove fierce beasts like tigers and leopards to defeat Yandi, and then used the same method to defeat Qiao.
Thus, the three major tribal alliances merged into one and evolved into the Chinese nation. Modern scholars analyze. In these two wars, the mighty tigers and leopards were not actual animals, but tribes that used them as totems. They, under Hongdi's leadership, conquered all directions. When the Chinese nation entered the era of state civilization, totem worship continued, with many dragon and tiger patterns on Shang and Zhou bronzeware. The usual arrangement features the tiger as the main subject, highlighting its fierce and majestic posture, while the dragon serves a supporting role. This indicates that in people's minds at that time, the tiger held a higher status than the dragon. The reason is simple. The core regions of the Shang and Zhou dynasties were tiger habitats, so people frequently saw them, making their impression more direct and profound than that of the dragon, which only existed in legends. Until the spring and autumn period, there were still feudal states that regarded tigers as totems. According to historians' research, the state of Shu in the Jianghuai region was renowned for its reverence of tigers. The people of Shu called themselves the Tiger Clan. The dragon gained prominence during the Qin and Han dynasties, when rulers associated it with the Son of Heaven, making it a symbol of imperial power. Since then, the dragon's status surpassed the tigers, but in terms of widespread popularity, the tiger probably still holds the upper hand. In fact, Chinese reverence for tigers isn't limited to specific regions, but is nearly universal among all ethnic groups. For example, the Yi people, Southwest China's largest ethnic minority, worship the black tiger. The Yi believe all things in the world were formed from the black tiger's body, and they themselves are descendants of the black tiger. After death, they revert back to tigers. In the Yi zodiac, the tiger ranks first, and the Yi name mountains and rivers after tigers. Ala Mountain means Big Tiger Mountain in Yi language, while Longchang River originally meant tiger falling into the river. Similarly, Northeast ethnic groups like Manchu, Orokan, and Hezjin also revere tigers as deities. To this day, some elderly people in Northeast China still call tigers mountain gods. Coincidentally, in the folk beliefs of Guangxi's Zhuang people, tigers are also mountain gods. More interestingly, many ethnic groups not only have tiger-related stories, but these tales often share common elements. The Yi's black tiger creation myth, mentioned earlier, closely resembles the Han people's Pengu creation myth, leading scholars to believe they share origins but differ in ethnic expression. This theory is well-founded, as different regions of Chinese civilization maintained close connections, influencing each other's concepts, customs, and behaviors. The evolution of the Queen Mother of the West myth perfectly illustrates this characteristic. Legends about the Queen Mother of the West originate from ancient texts of the Spring and Autumn and Warring States periods. The classic of Mountains and Seas records many foreign tales that may seem absurd but preserve ancient myths, human geography, and religious customs. One passage describes a goddess living on the distant Kunlun Mountains with a human face, tiger's body, and leopard's tail, named the Queen Mother of the West. From afar, it resembled a tiger, so in legends, the Queen Mother of the West acquired a tiger-like appearance. The Queen Mother myth first circulated among ancient Chang tribes around Qinghai, later spreading to the Central Plains, where it was recorded in the Classic of Mountains and Seas. Subsequent generations elaborated on this foundation, creating more stories. During the Warring States period, The legend of King Mu of Zhou tells how he toured the world, visited Kunlun Mountain and the Queen Mother, chatting and laughing merrily. In the Han Dynasty, the Queen Mother was linked to another ancient deity, Hu Yi. Legend says Hu Yi obtained the elixir of immortality from her, which his wife Chang'e consumed before flying to the moon. During the Wei Jin period, people became even more imaginative, inventing a story about Emperor Wu of Han meeting the Queen Mother on Qixi Festival. China's indigenous religion, Taoism, also adopted the Queen Mother, incorporating her into its pantheon of deities. As the supreme leader of female immortals, she became the household known Queen Mother of Heaven, even making an appearance in Journey to the West. Of course, by this stage of her image's evolution, the tiger elements had become very faint. The author actually uses this to illustrate how perceptions and feelings about tigers interpenetrated across different regions of China. In this process, the tiger's religious aspects gradually faded while integrating into folk customs, forming the distinctive Chinese tiger culture. So, as a folk culture, what are the connotations of tiger culture? This is the second question I'll address. Specifically, in Chinese folk culture, the tiger has three major connotations. First, it's a divine beast, also called a spiritual beast, symbolizing peace and auspiciousness. This is clearly related to the earlier discussion of totem worship. Since ancient times, people used tiger patterns as talismans to ward off ghosts and enemies, protecting clans and families, a practice that became tradition over time. During the Han Dynasty, every new year, households would paint tigers on their doors to expel ghosts. This evil warding practice evolved into posting door gods, Shen Shu and Yulu, whose duty was capturing evil spirits to feed tigers. During Tong Song dynasties, another ghost-catching door god emerged, Zhang Kui, often accompanied by a tiger, continuing the concept of tigers opposing evil spirits. In many regions, people dressed children in tiger head hats and shoes. In Hennan customs, grandmothers sew cloth tigers for grandsons. In Shandong, tiger paper cuttings serve as protective talismans for children.
All these practices aim to keep ghosts away from children and ward off evil for safety.
Some even make pillows in tiger shapes to ensure peaceful sleep. The reasoning connects. Extending this idea means tigers bring good fortune wherever they go. Many Chinese place names with tiger carry auspicious meanings like Suzhou's Tiger Hill and Hangzhou's Tiger Spring. This is no coincidence. Ancient people believed white tigers were the most auspicious. Biologically, white tigers result from recessive genes causing white fur. Beyond that, they're unremarkable, but to ancients, their snow-white rarity represented divine blessing. The Western Han Court's meeting hall was called White Tiger Hall, clearly seeking auspicious connotations. During Emperor Swan's reign, a white tiger was presented from Hubei region. Deeming it extremely lucky, he built a shrine for it. This concept merged with ancient astronomy, evolving into superstitious feng shui practices. Ancient people divided celestial phenomena near the ecliptic into 28 constellations based on stellar movements. The eastern 7 constellations formed the Azure Dragon, western 7, the White Tiger, with southern Vermilion Bird and northern Black Tortoise, creating the cosmic pattern. Azure Dragon left, White Tiger right, Vermilion Bird front, Black Tortoise rear. Ancestors used this map to determine seasonal changes and climate patterns for agricultural planning. Later interpretations incorporated Azure Dragon left, White Tiger right into Feng Shui, a mandatory principle for constructing palaces, homes, and tombs to avoid misfortune. Thus, tigers became true divine beasts. Now to tiger culture's second major connotation. Tigers symbolize warriors. If auspiciousness was bestowed by humans, ferocity is innate to tigers. Their majestic appearance, earth-shaking roars, and lightning strikes at prey deeply impressed ancients. No wonder Xuan Jizi declares, "Tigers, monarchs of mountain beasts, and kings of all animals. The character Tu, with Hu in it, mimics their roar. This trait quickly became anthropomorphized to describe mighty, vigorous warriors. In the Battle of Mue, King Wu of Zhou defeated Emperor Zhou with 300 chariots and 300 Huben warriors. Here, Huben signifies warriors, elite troops. Han Dynasty established the Huben general, position responsible for guarding the imperial palace. And in the late Western Han Dynasty, Wang Mang usurped the throne and established the Qin Dynasty, plunging the empire into chaos. Rebel armies rose everywhere, and the capital was nearly lost. Wang Mang deployed his last elite troops, appointing 9 generals known as the 9 Tigers to suppress the rebellion. As they were defeated or surrendered, Wang Mang's fate was sealed. Emperors would grant military commanders tiger tallies when stationed abroad. These tiger tallies were bronze tokens shaped like tigers, split into 2 halves, one kept at court, the other given to the commander. To mobilize troops, an emissary would present their half for verification. If the halves matched, troops would be dispatched. Otherwise, the commander could refuse. A commander's tent was called a tiger tent. Generals discussing battle plans deep into the night was poetically called Tiger Tent Night Strategy Talks. Scholars also held tigers in high esteem. During Tang Song dynasties, imperial examination result lists were called tiger lists or dragon tiger lists. Song dynasty philosopher Zhang Zai lectured on the Book of Changes seated on a tiger skin, signifying scholarly authority and embodying his vigorous, self-renewing philosophy. Later, when Zhang met the Cheng brothers, Yi and Hao, he acknowledged their superiority and removed the tiger skin. Interestingly, tiger skin symbolism persists today. For example, in the modern Peking opera Taking Tiger Mountain by Strategy, bandit leader Zhuo Shandiao sits on a tiger skin chair to display his authority. Since tigers symbolize warriors, wouldn't tiger hunters represent ultimate bravery? Thus, tiger-slaying heroes have been revered throughout history, with Wu Song from Water Margin being most familiar today. Actually, many Liangshan heroes have tiger connections. According to the author, 12 of Water Margin's 108 heroes have tiger nicknames like short-legged tiger Wang Ying, brocade-haired tiger Yang Shun, and tiger fighting general. Unofficial histories contain even more tiger hunting tales. Emperors also portrayed themselves as tiger slayers. Shang and Zhou dynasty kings left numerous hunting records. King Wu of Zhou reportedly captured 22 tigers at once, demonstrating unmatched bravery. The Khitan established Liao dynasty maintained hunting traditions, with emperors frequently hunting tigers. Liao history records over 10 such accounts. But who is history's greatest tiger hunter? The answer can only be King Shi. Qing Palace archives show Peng Shi was a passionate hunter, not just autumn hunts in Chengde, but during all his tours. His lifetime tally reached 135 tigers, 25 leopards, and 20 bears, unmatched in history. Of course, Kang Shi's bravery had institutional safeguards. King Emperor's hunts mobilized tens of thousands to form encircling rings that gradually tightened, exhausting trapped animals into despair. Then the emperor or crown prince would shoot arrows or fire guns, harvesting prey like crops. Others couldn't shoot without permission. Naturally, commoners lacked such imperial protection. So when commoners faced tigers unexpectedly, it became terrifying, leading to tiger's third meaning, symbolizing tyrants. The author notes, in hunting societies, people revered tigers, yet hunted them for heroism or materials, without malice. But in agrarian societies, tigers threatened crops, livestock, and humans, especially near forest farm boundaries. Like warring states Qin in northwest China's forest farm border, plagued by tiger infestations. Reportedly, tigers killed over 1,200 people under King Zhao Shang, who struggled to control them. As threats to humans, tigers gained negative connotations, their ferocity seen as brutality. Thus, brutal nations and figures were likened to tigers. Qin's notorious cruelty earned it the name Tiger Wolf State, tigers for ferocity, wolves for cunning, reflecting other states' view. The Confucian Classic of Rites records Confucius passed Mount Tai's foot, seeing a woman weeping at a grave. Hearing sorrowful cries, he sent disciple Zilu to inquire. She said, "First, tigers ate my father-in-law, then my husband, now my son. How could I not grieve?" Zilu asked. "Why not move?" She replied. "Here there are no harsh taxes." Confucius warned students, "Remember, tyranny is fiercer than tigers." Tang writer Lu Zongyuan's The Snake Catcher tells another tragic tale. In Yangzhou, Hunan, 3 Zhang generations risked catching venomous snakes for tribute rather than endure officials' exploitation as farmers. Liu Zongyuan similarly lamented tyranny is fiercer than tigers at the essay's end, leading people to critique tyranny and tyrants by comparing them to fierce tigers. However, with ecological changes, tiger populations have drastically declined, making them nearly impossible to find in most modern regions. Consequently, people's negative memories of tigers have diminished until they completely faded. The evolution of the wolf grandmother story is quite representative. Actually, in the original version, it was a tiger impersonating the grandmother to eat the granddaughter, later changed to a wolf. This shows tigers no longer pose a threat to humans. Here we conclude the 3 major connotations of tiger culture. We've covered the divine beast, warrior, and tyrant. Overall, the tiger's image is more positive than negative, growing increasingly favorable over time. But is this unique to Chinese tiger culture or universal? Part 3. The spread of tiger culture across Asia and tigers' current survival status. I'll now address this. As mentioned earlier, China is the origin of tigers. Over history, Chinese tigers spread across Asia, forming 8 subspecies. 5 remain today: Siberian tiger, South China tiger, Bengal tiger, Indo-Chinese tiger, and Sumatran tiger. Siberian tigers aren't confined to northeast China. Their range extends to Siberia and the Korean peninsula. Thus, Koreans are familiar with tigers, tracing their connection to ancient times. According to the Korean text Samguk Yusa, long ago a bear and tiger wished to become human. The sun god's son promised this if they endured 100 days in a cave eating only garlic. The tiger couldn't bear the hardship and quit midway. The bear persevered, transformed into a woman, married the sun god's son, and bore a son named Dangun. Dangun later founded Korea, venerating both bear and tiger as totems. In this tale, though the tiger lacked resolve, it remained revered, second only to the bear, whom ancient Koreans considered their ancestor. Per the author, most Korean tiger stories are positive. Take General Ganggam-chan, who defeated the Liao dynasty's army. Legend says before his birth, his mother accidentally stepped on a tiger's footprint, explaining his bravery and combat prowess. Dian Wan, founder of later Baekje, was raised on tiger's milk. Tiger deities would save the nation during crises, similar to Northeast China's beliefs. In Korean folklore, tigers are also seen as mountain gods. So during festivals, people post tiger images on doors to ward off disasters and evil spirits. To this day, the Korean peninsula still has a strong tiger worship culture, with South Korea called the land of the white tiger or Taeguk tiger. The 1986 Seoul Asian Games and 1988 Seoul Olympics both featured tigers as mascots, earning tigers the title of Korea's national animal. Apart from China and the Korean peninsula, other Asian regions like Japan, Vietnam, and India also have tiger stories, and in terms of quantity, India likely has the most, which makes sense since the Indian subcontinent has always been tiger habitat. The Indian tiger, also known as the Bengal tiger, is currently the most numerous and widespread tiger subspecies. In ancient times, its range was even broader. So many places in India have tiger-related legends. Among these, the most famous is the story of sacrificing oneself to feed the tiger. In ancient India, Prince Sattva was out playing when he found a den of starving tigers in the jungle. Filled with compassion, the prince sacrificed himself to save the tigers. This story was later summarized as sacrificing oneself to feed the tiger and spread widely. Prince Sattva is said to be a past life of Siddhartha Gautama, Buddhism's founder. Thus, tigers hold significant symbolic meaning in Buddhism. In India, in another major indigenous religion, Hinduism, tigers also hold a certain place. You might be wondering, since we've only covered Asia so far, is there any trace of tiger culture outside Asia? Scholars generally agree tigers reached as far west as the Caspian Sea in Central Asia. Due to the Caucasus Mountains and Arabian Desert, they didn't spread to Africa or Europe. So Westerners know far less about tigers than lions, but things might be different in the East. Some scholars believe Chinese tiger culture spread to the Americas, which requires a bit of imagination. According to the book's author, in the 1990s, scholars proposed that around 3,000 years ago in the late Shang dynasty, some Shang people fled war and sailed to modern-day Mexico to settle. Missing their homeland, they'd ask each other when meeting, "Is the homeland of Yin Shang still safe?" Over time, Yin Shang evolved into Indian, so they started calling themselves Indians. It was these Shang people who became Indians that brought tiger-related myths and legends. Traces of this remain in later Native American civilizations like the Olmec and Maya. Today, Native Americans still habitually call jaguars American tigers, influenced by tiger culture. Of course, the above claim hasn't gained acceptance in historical academia. Historians generally consider it unfounded. We're just recording it as a fanciful tale to add some fun to the Year of the Tiger. As the author notes, what's more crucial for contemporary Chinese is protecting tigers and preserving tiger culture. Data shows that as of 2019, China had over 6,000 tigers, most bred in captivity. Wild Siberian tigers number only about 30, while South China tigers are nearly extinct in the wild. Tigers in zoos or conservation bases face problems like inbreeding and loss of wild instincts. If this continues, tiger culture will lose its foundation, becoming merely an abstract concept, an imagination existing only in human memory. So I'll conclude with the author's heartfelt words. Tigers are a tremendous treasure for humanity and Earth. Over millennia, they've made immortal contributions to human cultural history. Humankind should thank them, commemorate them, and further develop their values and profound cultural significance. At civilization's dawn, tigers were humanity's protectors. Now, at civilization's peak, humans must unhesitatingly become tigers' protectors. All right, that concludes our interpretation of Chinese tiger culture. Reading notes are below the audio. We'll see you next time.